Okay, for this project, we are going to be using other materials in the formation of our work. So, this is a mixed media project, and mixed media just means that we are going to combine other materials and other media with our with clay, with our ceramic work. And for this project, on the conceptual side of things, I'd like you to think about memory. And so, some ideas to think about here is to build a ceramic object that incorporates another material that represents something about yourself and describes an aspect of your life you find interesting or impactful. A memory of something that happened earlier in your life, for example. You might create a specific object from your childhood. You might build an object that pays homage to an experience you've had earlier in your life. You might create an object that is an important relic of a particular time in your past. And the object or the series of objects, it could be a collection of objects, for example, must incorporate another material other than clay. And that other material is completely up to you. And so it could be wood or metal or concrete or fabric or yarn. There's a lot. I'm going to show you a collection of images here, and you'll see that I'm thinking pretty broadly about this other material. And also, each object could include several different materials other than clay too. So it doesn't have to be all clay and just one material, one other material. It could be found materials too. So in this case, Sasha Riebstein has these sort of deer antlers that are coming out of her object, and it looks like most everything else there is clay. So it doesn't have to be an object that you fabricate necessarily. It could be an object that you find. Um, Here she's using looks like string or thread or something to create this sort of tying together of these objects. This is a great project to bring in materials like fabric if you are interested in working with fabric, or if you like to sew, or if you like to knit or crochet or something like that, or if you'd like to use this project as a way to learn some of those skills. So this is Debbie Quick, and she's making these larger objects, these sort of quasi-figurative objects that where the arms, in this case, are made out of fabric and sort of the body. And in this particular work, the ceramic aspect are the hands that are hanging down there, and then everything else is fabric and probably some filling materials. So this is a really interesting way to think about how you can sort of visually extend your idea into some areas that might not be possible with just clay alone. Patty Chalmers is ceramic artist in Illinois in Carbondale. She teaches at Southern Illinois University at Carbondale. And so she's recreating these scenes here with clay figures and also incorporating things like astroturf and wood. And so, you might think of the other material as a way, as like a base, for example, something to tie the things together. In this work, Dylan is using several different materials here. Also, this sort of like astroturf here, but he's actually creating the clay objects, or the sort of gray objects there, using the packaging from different things. So he's taking a mold of, styrofoam packaging and pressing the clay into that. So he's actually using another material in the creation of the object as well as the presentation of the object. Susan Biner is an artist in Arizona, and so here you can see she's got the sort of yellow flower part as the other material, and it looks like some sort of like fabric or kind of a rubberized fabric or something. Same thing here. She also maybe potentially used some other material to join those objects, those spheres together. Probably epoxy, I'm guessing. But so there's your object might have several different materials in it. Jeremy Brooks is using this sort of found object, this tree branch or part of a branch, as a way to sort of extend out of the wall and hold this kind of clay sort of bird form. Um, Here he is creating a sort of scene inside of the pedestal. So the pedestal has always been the sort of thing to showcase something on top of the pedestal, but in this particular situation, his work is residing inside the pedestal itself. Chad Curtis is an artist in Philadelphia who uses lots of different materials to not only in the presentation of the work, but also in the content of the work itself. And so you can see each one of his works has, sometimes 4, 5, 6 different types of material. He's talking about themes of, the contemporary outdoors, how people might view or see the outdoors. Here you can see he's got lots of different types of material. He's got wood, steel, plexiglass, pink foam. He's got some bird seed on the image on the right. And then in this work, he's actually created an environment that would literally rain on these ceramic trees. And so he's creating a little computer system there, like probably some sort of Arduino or something, and then it's pumping water around and raining, creating this little ecosystem. And so in this work, he's got not only all the different materials, but also the electronics of it. And if you're interested in approaching that you can definitely use that interest in this work too. So same thing here on the image on the left. He's got electronic lights, and so the other thing that you could also approach this with as a way of looking to extend the surface of the surface look and the feel of, so you could think about how to kind of mimic, like with the clay, you could think about how to mimic like a rusted surface, but then also have a rusted piece of metal in the work. So in this work, Lynn Daria has got this sort of rusted look at the of metal at the top, and then the ceramic sort of triangular piece in the middle, and then that looks like concrete down there at the base. Stephanie Lanter is an artist who uses a lot of other materials as well, mixed media work. So here she is crocheting around the ceramic object. So the ceramic object is kind of like a sort of vessel for these works, and thinking about the delicacy of a fine thread in relationship to the ceramic material. So again, I would really, if you have an interest in working with fabric or yarn or string or something like that, this is a great project to experiment with that interest. In this work, Bethany Kroll actually has living grass growing around her work. So, your other material could be something that's actually alive, provided it's not an animal. We probably shouldn't do anything like that. But in this case, she's actually growing actual grass around her work. Several different types of materials here. And so she is, again, using the other materials to really accentuate and kind of drive home her work. Matt Moyer is also an artist, he's an artist in Illinois, and he's with his ceramic surfaces referencing metal, but then also bringing in actual metal and this piping here. So he's kind of recreating these industrial tools and mechanics, and so he's making the sort of cylindrical things with clay, and those, if you pull those out of that arrangement, they look like pots. I mean, they look like vessels. But in this case, they are vessels that are part of an industrial framework or industrial machinery. And so he's literally bolting metal parts to the ceramic. And so that's a really interesting way to think about this. Is you could think about there is actually like a physical connection between something like metal and ceramic. And so the material, I guess my point is that the material doesn't have to be so disparate. It could be something that you are trying to almost like trick the viewer into thinking what part is clay and what part is metal. Alana Doroki is a really awesome artist in Anchorage, Alaska, and most of her work does relate to animals and wildlife and things like that. And so here, she's creating kind of like this topography of wooden framework over this ceramic animal here. Um, and Clayton Keys is using a lot of different materials here. As you can in the image on the left, you can see the actual hair, that is coming out of this ceramic form. And so he's using other materials as a way to really sort of jar the viewer, so that you will see things that are actually, would be part of the human being that is being represented. So the figure is clay, but then there's these little moments that really kind of bring us back to the textural qualities of an actual human hair. And Lindsay Pachowski is kind of known for doing some of those similar types of things with animal forms. And so, a detail of this work, you can see that the animal itself is made out of ceramic, but she is painstakingly gluing or adhering the hair all over this object. And by doing so, the objects really kind of take on this lifelike, this sort of lifelike quality, that is actually pretty jarring. I've seen several of her works in person. They're really powerful because there's this, there's just this feeling that there's this kind of unsettling feeling about seeing that real hair on an animal, an animal that is not real. Jennifer Forsberg is a Swedish artist, and here again, you can see she's using some electronics. So this would be another way of bringing in another material, another media, electricity and lights to accentuate the sort of kind of mysterious quality with these forms here. Lots of different material here. She's got yarn and steel. You see that steel kind of curlicue there holding that ceramic form. Here's another material used as a presentation object. So, this is it's clearly part of the work, the red stand, but it is, part of the whole of it. So it's not just a pedestal necessarily, but so that's another way to think about this. This is along a similar vein. You can see that she has these kind of wooden legs there, and then a base that is patterned to the ceramic object. So she laid those objects out on a piece of wood or something and traced it and cut it. And Cristina Arribas is an artist who oftentimes brings in other materials. In this case, as the wood as a table and the chair and the sort of floor there. She's making the clay objects that are referencing her Mexican heritage and the collection of family here, and then bringing other materials to kind of create a broader scene for us. Here she's using found objects, so the bench is made by somebody else or found, she found it or went and got it. And so this is also accentuating the presentation of these cacti. But this would be kind of in the idea or the realm of a quote found object. Jason Walker does a lot of drawing on his surface, so he really makes these really super intricate drawings all over the forms. But then in this work is using other materials to accentuate, like almost like creating this handle form, but accentuating some of the things that are happening in the drawing. Rajhani Hussaini is an artist from Iran, and she's making these really beautiful porcelain, I believe they're porcelain, shovels, but then she's laying them and putting them onto actual shovels. So she's using the same type of object and kind of replicating it and showing us the sort of differences there. Also really interesting how she's blending the iconography, different iconographies into the work. Here's her work again using the shovel motif, and then recreating that shovel, those shovel works with the pattern, with the imagery and the patterns, and then in this case a wooden handle. So very difficult and to make the handles out of wood here, but in this case this is a really good use of another material to extend those shovels. Jason Hackett is an artist in Richmond, Virginia, and here he's using these. So the plates are bisque, or not bisque, but they are, but they're ceramic plates, and then he has cut them in half and pulled the table apart. So there's this chasm between this dining room table. He's also well known for using imagery in work. So if you are interested in photography and you want to incorporate some of your photo work, this would be another way to do that. So here he's actually adhering a ceramic vessel to the photograph and showing the photograph on the wall with the vessel that kind of sticks out. Same thing here, presenting a printed photograph with a ceramic object. And Mariana Kuczynski is doing some interesting things with animal forms and other materials too. And I'm going to jump to the detail of this so you can see it a little bit better. But a little bit like what we talked about with Lindsay Pachowski's work, where she is actually painstakingly putting in the hair of this dog. So the hair of this really makes it look like that fan is blowing that hair back. And so just a couple more pieces here just to kind of show you some different range of things. As you can tell, using mixed media is very common in contemporary ceramics. Most people use other materials at least at some point in their career. It's pretty rare to see somebody go through their whole ceramic career without using other materials. And so in this case, Kyle Bauer is not only using other materials, but his clay objects might also kind of reference other materials. So his clay objects are referencing things like plastic or cast plastic. So Carrie Longley is a ceramic artist and professor at IU East up in Richmond, Indiana. And so here she's kind of making these fantastical ceramic skull type forms, bone and sort of visceral, raw kind of muscle, but then bringing in actual hair, and then creating another aspect to make it kind of more potent or more special by creating this glass object that makes it look like it's a museum display or something. So there's a lot of different ways to work with this project. So what I want you to do, just again, think about how the other materials enhance the intention or the language of the visual language of your project. So build a ceramic object that represents something about yourself and describes an aspect of your life you find interesting or impactful. You might create a specific object from your childhood or something that pays homage to an experience you've had in your life. Maybe you create an object that is an important relic of a particular time in your past. Maybe it's very early, maybe it's late. So the object or series of objects must incorporate a material other than clay. And again, it could be several materials if you'd like, but it just has to have another material other than clay. And what we're doing here is we're trying to get a better understanding for how working with several materials at the same time can offer really interesting avenues and directions in our work. And so what you're going to do is you're going to submit sketches for at least 3 different ideas, and your sketches should include specific plans for how you will use another material in the completion of your work. And then you're going to bring your source material necessary to complete your projects to class when you're working on things. And so if you're incorporating another material, bring it with you so that you can have that material close at hand to study the texture, for example. Also, if you are learning a new skill, like if you're going to learn, if you're going to work on knitting, for example, you need to, spell out exactly how you're going to learn that skill in the time frame that you have, or at least learn it well enough to use it in the work. And so part of this also is getting a better handle at teaching ourselves skills. So that's going to be really important as you move forward. One of the goals of a college experience is to learn how to learn. And so I can't be expected to teach every single possible skill there is on the earth. So one of the things we need to do is gain experience in teaching ourselves new skills when we have challenges that we want to use those skills to solve. And so this is a perfect project for that. So anyway, let me know if you have any questions, and I'm excited to see your sketches.